Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome into another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig, or of course, visit our website, infectionpodcast.com. Joining me, as always, as he's done for the last 500 episodes, and he's muted, of course, Brian with an eye altered. You would assume after almost 10 years, this man could figure out how to unmute his microphone. Brian with an eye altered. What's going on, buddy?
I can't believe 500 episodes in, we haven't figured out it's time to stop. But
no, I mean, that's truly the remarkable part of all of this.
If you want to find me, of course, at Boise Computer on X or at Brian Aldridge on everything else that I've bothered to sign up for. So how's everything been going? It's been still quite the election aftermath. Everything's still moving forward.
Yeah, everything's going great. I thought, Brian, it's our 500th show. I thought we'd take a little trip down.
It is the 500th. That is seems like an old-timey way to say it.
Yeah, wouldn't 500th be like 50,000 or something, like the 500th?
No, it's the 500th you've had.
Yes. Okay, so I thought we'd take a little trip down old memory lane and see kind of what was going on back on, let me pull this up. This would have been back on January 20th, 2015, after I was done making fun of Brian for having his LinkedIn as a social media profile on our website. This ensued.
So this is Infection, and without further ado, Brian, I think, let's start like initial reactions of the game.
Well,
we'll get to the change logs in a little bit, but initial reactions. What are you thinking of H1Z1 so far?
All right, so start day one. I mean, I message you and I pretty much say, hey, have you gotten the game? I saw that you look like you purchased it on Steam. And so
you do.
I message you asking, well, should I get this? And I just said, all right, I'll buy this game. And of course the servers are down. Just we're not getting on, and I spend I think it was till 4:30 a.m. trying to get on the servers.
Good times, man.
That first day.
What a game!
And so I was thinking, man, I was having that buyer's regret.
And then there was the footprint sounds.
Oh man, the fact that you can't get it on
flying
the
cars.
On the map, you hear all of their
8 hours, I think.
Arrows in the middle of the roads.
Not good, but
blowing up.
I've been really happy with after that first day. They started putting out some patches for those major bugs, and come today, I mean, it's very playable. So I'm really happy.
It was about the same playable from there forward.
Awesome progression.
Never really changed from that day.
for the next 3 years.
Yeah, and this game launched, was it
playability
Thursday
right there.
or Friday? I think it was Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern.
You and your huge mixer.
Yes.
So the game has been out already
in the closet behind me still. I trekked all the way down to North Carolina.
Like you said, I'm very happy with it.
Don't use it anymore.
Within the first week.
I mean, everybody compares this to DayZ, and they're like, oh, it's because right now for the original DayZ, I think it's very close, depending on what mods and everything are on the server.
That was a terrible take. It's nothing like DayZ.
Kind of similar to
it was it was in the beginning. I mean, it was based off of the concept of
DayZ
and
how long that's been
and
a year
else.
development.
But DayZ worked.
Depending on the mod that you use, you could do
at the level
a game like this.
That this is now. With H1Z1?
I believe on the standalone, I still don't think there's vehicles on the...
Yeah. We'll check back in with that a little bit later on throughout the program. We'll reminisce through some of our first episode, January 20th, 2015. So coming up here in about a month, we'll be at a 10-year mark of doing this show, which would have mean I started the show when I was 17 years old.
There you go,
right?
17.
Yeah, I would have been 17, and now I'm 27.
So you're going to be 27?
I'm 27 now.
I'm saying in January you'll be the age 27. So.
Yeah, I'll turn 28 like the first week of February. So
there you go.
Yeah, that was episode 1 of this show, and the real, like as Brian noted earlier. But by the way, I'll note this: 462 views on YouTube, which was our first upload. I mean, that's not too shabby.
It started out. And that's the thing, is it started out pretty good because people were really into the game. Like people wanted more information, and it was the hot game to have. It worked out really well for us. It's just the company couldn't figure out how to make a good game.
No, they really
it worked well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the theory of the game was great, and it's you always look through this stuff and 10 years ago, I was in high school. And so, but regardless of that, Brian was at a different point in his life. But you look at this stuff through, like, they use like rose-colored glasses or whatever it is, but it's not even that. It's what was going on at the time. And if you go back to 2015, PC gaming was, I think, on the precipice of exploding. I mean, it was popular. Let's be clear. Minecraft
it had dwindled a lot, right? Consoles were considered the big thing, and it's like now finally PC gaming was making a comeback, I think.
Well, let's see. So the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 came out in 2013. So we were about about a year, a little over a year or so into that life cycle, like a year and a month or a year and 2 months into the life cycles of the new consoles. And obviously Minecraft, which came out well before 2015, was like the big game drawing. That was one of the main things. If you were what would now be called a casual gamer, you were probably playing Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, Minecraft, something in that caliber at the time. But really since then, and you had this huge influx of early access games, you had so many indie projects on the market, and this was before the time of, like, yes, Kickstarter existed, but you really weren't seeing video games on Kickstarter. It was more physical products and goods. So it was before the whole Indiegogo early access kind of explosion. And it's shocking to me, even to this day. I'll talk to people. I was on a bachelor trip this past weekend, and with people I had never met before. And I was talking to one of the guys, and we were talking about PC stuff, and I was like, hey, you ever heard of H1Z1? And he was like, oh, man, I loved H1Z1. Like, it was one of those games that everybody knew about. And if you had a gaming PC at the time, you were probably playing it, or at least knew about it, which does not happen, like seemingly doesn't happen anymore unless you're talking about Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption. Pal World is probably the most recent example of a game that
you could go talk to a lot of people and they'd actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. If you are tangentially related to the gaming sphere, you probably know what Pal World was. But it was like that with H1Z1, and so it's just amazing to see what has gone on in this industry over the last 10 years, and a game that, obviously it's funny to joke about now, but a game that was a true heaping pile of garbage when it was released. And I don't, we of course we're not in the good graces of the developers who used to talk about us at their as we found out, talk about us at their internal meetings. But I mean, the game really was garbage when it first released, and throughout the vast majority of its lifespan. I mean, I remember vividly Brian yelling. I remember the only time Brian has ever yelled at me. And I wonder if he remembers. Yelling at me.
Maybe I will.
We were streaming H1Z1, and the game was so stupid and bad that it did not put hashtags or anything to obfuscate your gate password.
Yeah.
So I'm streaming, and I accidentally live stream our gate password. Brian is beyond pissed, but it's just like, and that was not like the first day of the game. This is months into the product where you're like, hey, you know what would be really great? People are streaming our game, Summit, the Doc, all these main streamers. You know what would be really great if we could just simply obfuscate the text that you're entering, like literally every website, product, and service since the mid-19. You log into a terminal server today, and you type in your password, nothing even shows up on the screen to indicate how long it is. And that's been going on for 40 years in Unix-based operating systems. And months into H1Z1, that was not a thing. Like, it was just stupid stuff like that. And I vividly remember being yelled at because I did make sure to switch away, but one of my hotkeys was the scene to switch back, which also happened to be one of the numbers I was typing in the gate code. So I did my damnedest to make sure I didn't do it. And because I was typing, because of course it was 4 digits only, I ended up doing it. Brian yelled at me. It was a whole situation.
Well, we were under a lot of pressure at that time. We had the Chinese guys. We had all these other people.
I was chatting with our friend Langun a couple weeks ago. We were working on a project, and he was talking about how he's not the games he's playing right now are just like things on his own time. And he was like, yeah, no more waking up in the middle of the night to farm corn, which was a common occurrence. Somebody getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Explosives. How are we going to blow up everybody on the server's bases?
It wasn't
if we
even
didn't have a lot of corn.
And it wasn't even that. It was that if you didn't log in the second that they were ready to harvest, the Chinese hackers would immediately
they would fly in. They would port through your wall. They would steal all your corn. Then they'd port themselves out of your room, and then they'd be gone to the next place.
So like literally alarms on phones. I remember doing this many a times, waking up at like 2:08 a.m. Eastern to log in, to harvest a bunch of corn, to go to sleep, to log back out. Go to sleep in the game and then log back out. So, I'm looking at the Wikipedia for Just Survive, which is what the base game became. It sold over 1 million copies. I mean, this was a very large game. Like, I would like to read this. Okay. This is from Wikipedia. The game was released for Windows via Steam on early access title on January 15th, 2015, which I don't think is accurate. The game suffered from several issues at launch, Brian. A short-lived bug that crashed the game's servers was also introduced through a patch meant to fix other problems. The game sold over 1 million copies within 2 months. Within 2 months, it sold 1 million copies. And that little 3-sentence wiki description purposefully sums up: to fix another issue, they created an issue that crashed all the servers. And that was essentially the history of H1Z1. And, it's fun to make fun of now, but it really was that shitty engine, ForgeLight, that the game ran on. I mean, if H1Z1 was built in Unity or Unreal in starting in probably 2013 is when they started development.
They'd probably still be around.
It would be Rust. I'm convinced that it would be Rust or Arc. I do feel kind of bad for the developers that they had just such a heaping pile of garbage, which, ForgeLight was a great engine back in the 1990s, in early 2000s. Not a great engine in 2015 for essentially an MMO. Anytime they tried to fix anything,
they never put out the new one. What was that supposed to be? Remember they were going to release the new, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was EverQuest Next, was it?
Yeah, but that wasn't what it was called. But I remember they showed that animation of I remember it was a spinning windmill. That was the animation for the new ForgeLight.
Well, they have the new ForgeLight engine, but then they were supposed to be releasing the new version of EverQuest.
Oh, it was EverQuest Next
on that new engine. Yeah.
Yes.
And that I was looking for, because EverQuest was my first MMO I ever played.
Wow.
And this was back in early 2001. I was playing EverQuest, I know. And it was a lot of fun. I had books for it. I think I finally got rid of all the stuff. Nostalgia. I was like, I don't need all these manuals, but I had manuals for it. It was a fun game. And so I was looking forward, because I never played EverQuest 2 and these other ones. They still look horrible, but I was like, let's go back, and it'd be fun to play in a modern looking game that's not built so poorly. Play that old game, but it sounds like that's not going to happen.
With that, that's also why EverQuest Next never happened. It was it was again going to be built on some updated version of ForgeLight, but it's just not. It's in this modern era, and I'm trying to find, the first ForgeLight game came out released in 2009. Meaning this engine started development in the mid 2000s, probably 2006, somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, you're literally talking about an engine. The day that it was released, that engine was 10 years old, and was not, even though there were some early MMOs on it, it was not made for the kind of game that H1Z1 was, and that plagued them from the day that it released until they split them into two things. Battle Royale was all right. They had that worked out, to work well enough. But I mean, I just thinking back to all of the issues with the game and things that weren't even engine related, just stupid things like typing in numbers. How the hell
Yeah.
can you make a video game that is being streamed to hundreds of thousands of people on the internet and not just like immediately have that fixed? Like, how is that such a complicated thing to do?
And I've never worked in Forge Light. That would be the interesting thing, is if we could get access to the engine. I'm kind of curious, how hard was it to do basic things?
It had to have been incredibly hard.
Because one thing that's kind of nice about Unreal Engine, Unity, more modern engines is even in their visual programming, you can kind of see that everything's connected. When you're working with an old engine like that, it's a bunch of files that you're maintaining. Like, you don't have an overall view, from what I understand, most likely. I've seen pictures of their interface here and there. I doubt there was an overall view of how all the code kind of fit together like you'd have in some of the more modern engines.
No, but you've got to be fair. At the time, I don't think any real engine had that.
That wasn't the standard, right?
No,
that
of course
becoming
not.
the standard.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see how complicated was this giant engine, and how hard was it to implement a new feature? Because it seemed like they didn't like implementing new features, but it could be because of how it was built. It could be that them making a change creates so much instability, because like when they tried to make the one fix, they mentioned how it broke all these other things. I just kind of wonder, how difficult was it for them to put in small features and changes?
This is
because of how old, and everything is purely text, probably minimal tools. They had to build all the tools they wanted to use for their engine.
This is the first game.
House.
This is the first game that came out on Forge Light, and as you can see, this is a very that first game was very much that was a top-down MMO. Now this game looks like it came out in 2010. This is some sort of Clone Wars game. This is way more equivalent to H1Z1 than the first example that we looked at. I can just imagine, because things seemed so complicated, and by the way, they had, this was at the time owned by Sony. So it's not like they, and John Smedley, and I mean, they had a group of very talented people that had been with some variant of SOE since the original portions of EverQuest, like you were just talking about. I mean, some of these guys are 20-year veterans with the company. PlanetSide
2 was supposed to be on the new engine. EverQuest Next was supposed to be on that new engine.
It wasn't built for H1Z1. I mean, all these other games we're looking at are true MMOs. H1Z1 was not, and that's I mean, let's just look. I mean, you can just look at the difference. It wasn't.
I mean, it's incredibly buggy. Yeah, it'd be, and that was. I mean, it was a product of the time. I think was a lot of it. I think people were hungry for something like this. People had been playing Arma mods and doing different battle royale type of things. I think they wanted something that maybe would be bigger than those mods, and they didn't really get that. They got pretty much the equivalent of a mod. I mean, there was a base building mod, which wasn't really linked to the rest of the game in any meaningful way other than materials, right?
Yep.
I mean, they were standalone things constantly. That they plopped in places. Then they were like, well, our base building system doesn't work with towns, so now you can't build anything inside of a town unless there's a special server, and then the whole town is filled with bases. I mean, it was a giant mess that they kept on trying to put things in, and problems are huge issues. Remember when they had objects that were just gigantic, like little objects?
The buildings.
Yeah, the buildings were huge. I mean, there's just crazy things like that, and then you constantly have people trying to hack it, which obviously wasn't that hard.
No, we had our own.
We had it to where, and that's the crazy thing, is the thing that Ferment had built was accurate. It detected speed bots, or people
moving too quick on the server.
Moving too quick on the server, faster than they could naturally. It detected it incredibly accurate. We knew when a hacker was coming at us.
Yes, literally.
I mean, it would be, and they couldn't do that. I mean, that's when I said something to the person who worked there. I don't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but I said something to him, and he was like, well, you probably shouldn't tell me about that. Well, I was like, I'm letting you know, we're not using it to hack. We're doing it so we know when hackers are flying at us or flying into our base.
Yeah.
That's what we're using it for. And it's like, we can accurately detect them. Like, why can't you build that? why are you writing a script which is running nightly? Which he would tell him. I would talk to him.
Yeah, what
he
was
would run
that?
a nightly script to ban everybody, but do all the bans. So I don't know if he was going through the logs manually or taking all the reports in, looking at the logs, and then deciding who was getting banned and who wasn't. Then he'd make a script, and then he'd run all those bans for the night. It was just crazy.
Brutal.
And then they got it to where there were more real-time bans happening.
Yep.
We
saw
got
that.
something going.
We actually saw people finally starting to get banned and then it was egregious levels of hacking. This is not for folks that didn't play H1Z1. This is not like Call of Duty where somebody's just kicking your ass and you're like, oh, they got to be hacking because they're better. I mean, these people would literally fly.
You'd see cars going through the air, people flying through the air. You'd see people teleporting across the map.
In the distance, because nothing else in the world would have loaded, but you could just see a player you
could see a player just running and going. Or you see somebody that's obviously because didn't they have it to where you could spectate or whatever? I'm trying to remember if there's
that would have been in the Battle Royale version.
The battle. Oh yeah, because I remember seeing once we got to the Battle Royale, I remember seeing spectating of people, and it's just like that person's they're tracking somebody through a building, and you can see they don't move their camera from that person, but then all of a sudden, once they get around this building, it's like, oh, there's a person right where they're looking. Obviously you're hacking, and that was very common. It was a
pretty brutal time, but
we got pretty good at it too. We dominated that game.
We did. Of course, we got called racists for wanting to ban the Chinese from the North American servers. That was Brian and I made that pledge. We had the developers on like an early episode, like episode 6 or 8 of the show, and I just was like, hey. What are you going to do about all the Chinese on these servers?
And then they were trying to be all
and they were, and they had a large player base in China. But I mean, you had situations where you'd have an entire group of people with Chinese characters in their names speaking Chinese in game chat. You'd have 20 of them join a server, all hacking at the same time, and wipe away weeks worth of progress. I mean, it was a serious issue, and because they were unable to deal with the cheating, the logical step was you got to start banning Chinese IP addresses. I mean, at least as a start, which I know easy to get around with.
Was that how we got to know Barbie, or did we get to know Barbie before that? Because
I don't remember.
I think Barbie was like hanging out with them, and then the Chinese hackers were like trying to get her to infiltrate us.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, that's what
happened. Because we had Chinese hackers constantly figure out how to, because we would have people up 24/7.
Yeah, pretty much.
Base.
Yeah.
And so like the Chinese hackers were always trying to figure out how to get into our base. And so they'd send people to try to get inside and open the doors. Like they would do everything possible. But like with Barbie, I think it was where she came to infiltrate us and then realized we were cool and then hung out with us and didn't hang out with them anymore.
So there's a video on our
them all.
All right, I don't even know whose video this is. I think it's mine. I guess the title of this video is 1vCCTV. I don't know what this is. I guess I run upon a group, but this is on our YouTube channel. Let's see. See what's going on here. I guess this is the Battle Royale.
Hey, nice try, guys. Try again.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, man. Let's see.
You gonna start teleporting?
Oh, I can't kill him. You could tell. I mean, look. If you go back, you can see how many bullets I lit this guy up with.
You don't know what his ping was. I mean, who knows? He's probably already down the road.
Just completely, just completely obliterated. And so this was in Battle Royale, but this was also in.
Look at all these people.
Yeah, look at all these people. I mean, this is why it was called Nick v CCTV.
Battle Royale, at this level, wasn't it supposed to be? This was supposed to be small teams of 4 or less. You were probably so.
This was a solo match for me by the looks of it.
Solo matches. This is supposed to be a solo match. Look at that group of Chinese players all converging on one person. That's what we dealt with on a daily basis.
This is March 21st, 2015. So this is pretty quickly after the release of the game. But that was, I don't know who was making that a super offensive Chinese impersonation. That was not me. Somebody else.
That was AI, I think.
It was definitely some AI. But that was the game. Like you literally had these 3 guys, as you heard them speaking fluent Chinese, jumps out of the car. I can't kill them because they obviously have something that is not affecting their health. And then there's a swarm of like 15 or 20 people all on a one-man BR, Battle Royale game.
Yeah.
So that was H1Z1 from start to finish. I mean, it never... I don't really remember, and it's hard to do this at this point in time because it was so long ago. But, we've got another video up here on our channel. Hackers in H1Z1. This is April of 2015. I don't know.
Here's what happens about once an hour in H1Z1.
I'm not even mad at that.
All right.
You gotta watch out what he says.
Oh, wow! Look at that. That was pretty great. So this is in the regular mode. You can see this guy walks around a corner. I wonder if I can see
instantly.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, playback speed. Where it says custom 1.
Yeah, let's do 25. So you can see this guy walks around the corner with a pistol. I believe he's only got a pistol, and immediately one-shots me. Like
right
immediately. Like right in the head. When I'm wearing a helmet, by the way. Immediately
one-shots.
one-shots.
Supposed to knock the helmet off first.
Yep, 100% knock the helmet off. Yeah.
That if it were a sniper rifle, but the thing is, he upped his damage or whatever on that pistol.
Yeah, and then this is what my body apparently decided to do. Great game. So yeah, that was actually, it looks like
that pretty much sums up the game.
Oh, this is the guy after the fact. Did it show? Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe it did show you the Maybe it did show you like what they were doing after the fact. Oh yeah, look at him. He's completely invisible to the zombies.
Yeah, the zombie. Oh wait, no, they're coming up now.
Yeah, but they're not killing him. Like, and then he's gone, and then he disappears. This is the kind of crap that we were dealing with on a daily basis. This is April of 2015. I mean, at this point, your game is out 3 months.
Yeah,
you had 2 million sales. Or 2 million sales within the first month. This went on forever. And the caption of this video is, here's what happens, here's what we experience about once per hour at H1Z1. And somebody in our group, and we were rolling at some points like 20, 25 people large, but within a group, this was happening to somebody once an hour every time we played. It was unbearable. The game, they never were able to fix it.
If you played long enough through a day, you were guaranteed to run into a hacker. And that's not like Nick said before, he's obviously a hacker, Call of Duty hacker.
Like this guy was clearly
I'm talking
hacking.
about a legitimate, you watch this and they're hacking. It's just incredibly obvious. And it happened all over the server. Every server.
This is just great to just watch this guy. First of all, the zombie clips through him. Then it comes back to him. It doesn't hurt him. You'd be already knocked down at this point. Punches it and then disappears.
Punches one and disappears.
Great game.
Yeah, that's the game.
So,
but hey, it got us here.
Yeah, it got us here all these years later. Just trying to see if there's any other interesting videos on our YouTube channel. Here's a BR ESP hack. What ESP was what? That's aimbot, or is that
seeing
the one that lets you teleport?
ESP, seeing through things.
Ah man, remember that sound?
Yeah.
So somebody's laying down in like one of these stupid cherry tree things.
The berries.
Not moving.
Is someone running up to you?
I assume so. I think so. Yep.
Okay, so someone obviously knows where you're at.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a guy, you could hear him driving by in a cop car at full speed and goes, oh, I bet you there's somebody sitting in this random cherry tree right next to the side of the road. This is, that's our current YouTube video. This was March. So again, like 2 months or so after the launch. And then, here's a video that says I've been reporting this guy for 3 days now. We put this guy's name right in the. Oh, look at that little Discord call coming in. Oh, it's you, Brian.
Would be nice. We're really,
Thank
really
you.
close to
All you have is an X.
yeah, pretty much an X. Yeah.
So that ESL no just came up to me and said, "I hate you. I hate Infect," and then he killed me again.
So there you go. So yeah, we
they
became
hated us.
quite
We
quite the pariah of the H1Z1 community somehow.
It's because we didn't like all the hackers, and we would just kill them every time we saw them. And we're
And
the
remember
only
we
ones that
signed-
they had trouble with.
Remember we signed that letter with those three. There was 3 other major clans, and we like signed a letter. We were trying to get them to give us a private server just for like these.
So we were on the
established
verge
clans.
of a private server. We
Yeah.
were almost there, and then something happened, and it all fell apart. But we were in negotiations. We worked it out with the top clans to be able to have a server where we could go in and not have hackers and create content is what it really was about. I mean,
Yeah.
not for us, but that's what they should have been doing it for, was creating a place where they could create content for YouTube that didn't look like this.
Look at this
It
town,
didn't-
and look at this guy cheating. He's literally running through the walls.
he's porting through walls. He's got a machete. You've shot him how many times?
Yeah. I mean, this is it, and I know I keep saying this, and I sound like a broken record, but it never stopped until
Yeah, it
you
was like
eventually.
this.
Yeah,
It was
look
like
at this
the
guy.
whole time.
And look, he just completely teleported all the way. Look at him. He's just tipping across the parking lot. I mean, it's just insanity.
Yeah, and this was normal.
Yeah, I got him.
Hey, you got him.
Look at that. Mission
Yeah, the
accomplished.
hackers were usually not very good.
No,
Like just because they were
Oh,
hacking,
that was you,
I mean, they may have
actually.
had an aimbot.
that was you,
Hmm?
Brian. That was you, Infected Brian. You totally got him.
Oh, I killed him. Oh, okay, yeah.
That was
I
that was
didn't
some,
realize that was my video.
that was some Brian gameplay there. All right, let's see if there's one more, anything else, and then we'll move on to let's see. This is okay. This is a game bug. This is all right. So this is a little bit of a longer video. This takes us to August. So at this point, the game is at what, 7 months?
7 months, yeah. I figure most of the bugs would be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, and so at this point, we've got our base set up. You used to have to hide your cars
They had
inside.
base building. The graphics were improved. They kind of redid
Definitely.
a lot of the assets.
And I guess there's some base bug here where, because you used to have to hide your cars inside. There was an issue with the cars. You could make them blow up by like doing nothing to them. You'd like, I don't remember what it was.
The gates would make them blow up, it seemed like.
Yeah, there was a
like,
whole bunch
yeah.
of issues with the cars, which is why you'd have to put them inside of a base.
I feel like something bad's about to happen.
Yeah, something awful is about to happen here. And
This is usually when things go bad.
I don't know what. We had a pretty sick base up to this point, and I don't exactly.
We'd map them out. Like we would plan
Yeah.
our bases, try to get it to where you could get as much possible, and lock rooms within rooms.
Oh, so I
within
think I'm
rooms.
stuck now.
Oh yeah, now you can't move. When you exit the vehicle, you're stuck in the spot right here.
Oh, jeez. No, please.
And now he's going to try to move you.
Yep.
Did it fix it?
No, I still can't move. I think I clipped through the bottom of the base. If I remember what happens here, I believe I completely clipped through the bottom. Maybe not. But like the game was a lot of fun. Yep, and there you go.
There it is.
So the
People
game was
do
a
that
lot.
method to be able to get into your base as well. They would
Yes.
do things to glitch in.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. The game was a lot of fun. And the reason we played it so much was because you had to play it to such an extreme level to overcome the bugs.
Everything. A casual couldn't come in and play well because of how much you had to work around.
And that's it.
It wasn't
Not
the
just playing the
shooting,
game.
It wasn't. It was surviving the environment, not just so hungry, surviving the bugs, surviving the hackers.
Yep.
Like it was an extreme challenge because of all the problems, not because of what they built.
The game wasn't complicated.
The
I mean,
game wasn't the challenge at all.
It
we
was
could
a
handle the
s-
game.
It was a simple crafting system, a very
Mhm.
simple looting and gunplay system.
We had
very
pretty much
simple-
all the resources we could possibly want at various points. It wasn't about the resources. It was the constant being attacked by all the
Yeah.
hackers. It was the constant everything being destroyed because of some random bug. The base falling apart, something happening people hacking and stealing every bit of corn that you have on the hour, every hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, like that was the environment we were overcoming. That made the game for us. The bugs made the
100%.
game something challenging and fun. But after a while, like the hacking got so out of control that there was no more game. Like we couldn't even, towards the end, there was no countering the hacking. They had total control of the servers, it felt like.
Yeah. And so yeah, we as I mentioned, we were working with a couple of other groups to try and get a private server. It was apparently very close, and then it fell apart. And by that point, when that fell apart, I think that's when everybody was like, yeah, we're just kind of done with the game. And it wasn't long. I'm trying to think, we probably got through the end of the year. And actually, I can tell you exactly when it is. We changed to the Survival Podcast less than a year in. By 12, 14, 15, episode 48 of the show, we had already switched the name from Infection, the H1Z1 podcast, to Infection, the Survival Podcast. So it was
because they were no longer putting out updates.
We weren't playing the game at that point. I mean, we made it through the summer, I think, and then we stopped playing. Because you couldn't. It just was no longer, like, you could only grind, again, not in-game. Rust is a great example of a game that is a grind. I mean, a grind where you're literally logging mining resources constantly to try and build up. It wasn't that kind of grind.
Everything's being recycled because of destroying things on a regular basis.
Yeah. But like Brian noted, the grind was because you had to deal with flaws in the game engine, hackers, the game just not, the bugs galore within the game itself. There used to be, you would if you killed a zombie walking in the middle of the road, the zombie's body would disappear after a period of time, but the arrow that you shot them with would persist in the environment. And if you were driving down the road, you would hit the arrow. You can't see it. It's a bow, like a little arrow you'd shoot out of a bow. You'd hit into it, and your car would immediately explode. Like on impact. So then people would just shoot and kill zombies all over the map, and then you essentially couldn't drive. That nullified and neutered the vehicles completely because it was a literal death trap anytime.
Or they'd have invisible objects in the middle of the road. You'd be driving, flying down. There's this one place where you'd fly down the road, and then you'd hit like an invisible block that was unmovable. It'd be like running into a wall.
And then your car would explode.
All of a sudden, your car explodes.
Yeah,
yeah. And
so
you lose everything you had.
So there we go, Brian. 500 episodes of Infection. Nice little reminiscence down memory lane. If you are, we've got a couple of the OGs that are still around. Leave us a comment on YouTube and Rumble, and yeah. So here's the 500 more, right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that.
All right.
Not promising 500 more.
So we've got about 20 minutes until we hit our hour mark. What do you want to jump into?
All right. Well, we've got a lot of different things. How about we talk here really quick? I want to talk about Microsoft here for a minute, because I think this is something that may change very quickly with the new coming administration. It's kind of hard to say, but the FTC is launching a broad Microsoft antitrust investigation, and that's supposedly starting now. There's not a lot of details on it, but I think this has been something that the FTC of this administration has been pushing, not only with Microsoft, but then there's been other companies as well.
They're going after Google right now.
Google's another one that they're getting ready to do. And not that I don't agree to a point that they are a monopoly. Those guys are monopolies in various areas, but it's only because they provide, I think the way that products work in the current industry has changed. People are expected to support worldwide clients, where back in the before, maybe, companies would work with a subset of clients in America. And there's so many regulations, there's so much technology. It's hard to provide a product that can support the whole world. And these companies do it. It's difficult to come in and break through and become big like this and compete against them. I don't know that it's necessary because of things that they're doing. Of course, they're trying to stay, in first place. But I don't know that's necessarily things that these two companies are doing purposefully to try to be bigger and run everybody else out. I'm sure there's aspects of it in there. And then if that's the case, find those. But don't just knock them down because they're the biggest. That's my biggest concern. And I feel like that's been more of what the current administration has been doing, is saying you're the biggest, so we're going to go after you, not for the actual places where they may be doing things that are inappropriate.
Yeah, that was the wrong chart I pulled up there. Damn it. Windows is something
you could do this
like
for Microsoft,
70% of the Windows
Google and
shit.
Android. You could with Apple. There's a huge number. Microsoft competes with Amazon. I mean, if you look, Amazon and Microsoft compete when it comes to data center and technology. I think there are parallels for each of these companies of competition for them. I don't feel like any of these companies have an area where there's no competition.
I mean,
other than maybe Google and advertising.
Here's August of this year. Windows has got a 67% market share. Mac is up almost 15%. Mm-hmm. iOS, which is the phone operating system for Apple, then Android at 2.4, Linux at 4, and then a mismatch of other things, OS2 and things like that people are still running at 6.5%. They've got the market share because they make, I'll challenge anybody on this, they make the best desktop operating system, hands down.
And that, I mean, and the desktop operating systems are changing. I mean, look at what's happening with Windows 10 right now. Windows 10 is having a problem because they've end-of-lifed it, or they're end-of-lifing it. But most of the computers can't support the new operating system, Windows 11, because of their TPM restriction. Now, this is a Microsoft problem. It's not a requirement to run a computer. They're putting this false limitation on themselves.
Well,
you shouldn't require having TPM to install an operating system. Well, Linux doesn't require TPM.
No, it doesn't. This is,
but to do encryption, you need it, right? So if you're wanting to meet a certain standard, sure. Right.
That's the issue, is that Microsoft is plagued with this issue of, because it's the most used operating system, it's 70% of the market. People develop viruses and things for it because it's the largest market share. TPM gives them a lot more security in Windows 11 than in any other previous version of Windows. And so it's very much a chicken and the egg kind of situation. Microsoft gets blamed for having a bad, quote unquote, bad operating system because there's viruses, but it's not really, it's not their fault. I mean, I have
backwards
sympathy.
Compatibility is really what's doing it.
Well, I'll tell you what though, backwards compatibility on Windows is incredible.
If they got rid of it.
Yeah, they would, but I mean, it's amazing. You can open up a piece of software written back from the early 2000s,
20 years ago,
25 years ago, and there is a chance, depending on what it is, that it runs completely fine on Windows 11, which is something that should be, something that is nice. It's great that the biggest example is drivers. I mean, you can have a 20-year-old, Lexmar dot matrix printer that you can install drivers on in Windows 11, and it works like a champ. I'm all for the TPM stuff. I think
it's good, but that's a huge wall that they're hitting right now. They just lowered the restriction.
They did.
And so I think they're going to back away from that to a point. I think they were trying to get everybody forced into it. Maybe make it for the professional license, require TPM. For the home, don't require TPM, because that's the if you can force all businesses that are going to be doing networking and things like that, a place where you can go and connect to files and put them on your computer that then someone could steal, and then you have business files on this laptop. That's where I think it's important. Yeah. And so, I mean, I understand what they're saying, but it's really holding them back. And I think there's a huge number of Windows 10 computers that aren't going to be compliant. But what's the alternative other than going to Windows 11 for those people? There's not, other than switching to Mac or Linux. And we know that's just not realistic for most business environments.
I'll say this, and for the home users, have you seen anything about this new Mac Mini that just came out? Now, the baseline model doesn't have amazing specs, and the upgrades are outrageous. But the new baseline Mac Mini, which I think comes with 16 gigs of RAM and a 256 gigabyte M.2 or solid state drive, is $599. which is very competitive. Now, unfortunately, if you want to add a like 2 terabyte drive to it, it's like $600 extra. So it takes your $599 computer and makes it $1,000 or $1,200. But that's a game changer right there. I mean, the Windows, most people, based on what they do, don't need to spend $1,000 on a computer, which is kind of what like the baseline entry is for a Mac, $800, whatever. Most people don't need it. They can get away with a $300 laptop. But if Apple continues to lower their prices and becomes more competitive in that $500 to $600 field, that very much could skyrocket. Because I'll tell you what,
pulling those people away.
As an iPhone user, I would love to have a Mac. The integration with AirDrop and iMessage and all that stuff would be phenomenal.
Because there's things that, like for my wife, she uses the Mac environment, and so if you take a look, we got her an iPad, and the iPad we got her was a very reasonable price. For me to get an equivalent tablet in the Android cost more than the iPad.
Yeah, Android
because
tablet market sucks
there's so
right
few.
now.
There's so few choices. I got the OnePlus Pad 2. It had just come out like a week or two before I bought it. I didn't realize it had come out so recently. But it was more expensive, but it's the Samsung's way more expensive.
Yeah, it's insane.
The only thing that wasn't a super cheap tablet that, is like a $50 tablet from China is then jumping up to like the OnePlus or a Samsung, and it's just a huge jump in price. The iPad had a version, and that's the downside of Android. There's so many tablets. How do you know which one's a good one? Unless you go and map out all the processors, and there's a million tablets to purchase on an Android, and it's almost impossible unless you go with a major name brand to know if it's actually a fast tablet.
Why don't you, Brian, the open source community has already solved this. Why don't you get this open source tablet? I mean, doesn't this look realistic? It's a Raspberry Pi that you mount. I mean, look at this. It's an open source tab.
Scratch to make games on it.
Apparently, this is called the Cutie Pi, and it is an open source. It is an open source. Look at how ergonomic this looks, and definitely not like an inch and a half thick. I will say this, in the tablet sphere, they're very low powered. I don't use mine at all. It was a terrible purchase for me because I don't follow through on anything I'm supposed to. The Android or the Amazon tablets are great, and they're cheap during any holiday. I have one that I got to do e-reading on. Did that for like 2 months, and it is now sits dead in my bedside table. But for the price of that, I think I spent $49 on it. Was a steal.
That's probably your best bet if you're looking for a budget tablet, is just to go with 100%. The Amazon ones.
Go with the
because
Amazon. And don't
they sell it as cheap as they can, really.
Yeah.
And you're going to get what you pay for. If you go and pay for a knockoff brand one, they're so slow that updating your apps takes forever. I mean, just base operating system things, because they put such cheap chips in the no-name brand tablets. It's just the market is so flooded with no-name tablets that there may be really good off-brand tablets, but how would you know the difference between a good one and a bad one? They all look the same in all the reviews, and they all say 2024, new specs, but still they're junk. Like, there needs to be a way to know if a tablet's fast, and that's the benefit of going with iPad or going with a name brand, is in that series where you're going to be speed-wise. On no-name, with no regulation of Amazon and hardware, you just don't know what you're going to get.
I mean, look at this thing on AliExpress. It's $35.
Yeah. That's the thing, is you can buy that. Well, for one that's $70, for one that's $140. How do you know which one's actually faster? They don't tell you. Show me where in the specs. It tells you how fast that tablet is.
This one looks cool.
Yeah, so here, this one, they have a better graphic, right? They tell you, so that one says Snapdragon 888. Most people don't know what that means.
I don't even know. I didn't know that was a Snapdragon model. Yeah,
so I mean, that's the chip. Okay, but is that fast? I mean, I don't really, most people don't know the difference between a Snapdragon 888 and
How old is the 888? I'd be curious. This thing looks.
So Snapdragon.
Look at this. They have this thing installed in the dashboard of your car? Looks like the Tesla screen.
Wow. Yeah. So it's 8 cores. It's a 2.8 gigahertz clock.
When did it come out? That's the real question. I mean, date of release is really because, I mean, You can
2020. So December 1st, 2020 was when it was announced.
So it's a 5-year-old, or excuse me, it's a 4-year-old processor. That's not good.
No. And so that's where, like, there's such a big jump between all these different chipsets. So, like, the Apple has the A18 Pro.
Yeah.
That one's rating in the benchmark is like a 97, which is an A+. The 888 is a 49.
Yeah.
So
look at this guy. You can get a Windows 10 tablet for $79. A copy of Windows is $130 or something, $140.
Yeah, but you can get this thing no problem. And like, okay, so what speed is this one? It's the Z8350, right?
Who makes that though? I mean, that's
the
not
X5.
It's an Intel Atom. 2016.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like all these tablets that
processor's
you get
9 years old
are so slow, but you'd have to sit here and map out, and half of them don't say what it is. So it's like when I started researching and trying to buy myself a tablet, I finally gave up because I was ordering these.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just buying the OnePlus. I know it's going to be fast, and I've loved it. But it's more expensive than the iPad, and maybe not one of the nicer iPads for sure. But it didn't work for me. It was frustrating.
Yeah, these reviews are suspect as hell.
And this is how Amazon is just.
This is AliExpress
This is AliExpress, but Amazon's the exact same way.
Yeah, that's terrible.
When you go search for tablets on Amazon, it's like tons of those.
I might have to order this.
It's a quad core, so it's got
it's $13.
Android 11. Yeah, and then you can have automation, home automation, like whatever. Do random things. But that's the thing, finding a good tablet. And then that kind of goes to the point. When you don't have monopolies, or what they call monopolies, you don't have those good products. Because they're the ones putting out the high quality, high power products. They're not putting out a bunch of cheap and low powered ones. And so, if you go to those companies, you'll be able to get something that works.
Yeah.
Here, you could skim and scan almost all these tablets
or the same
before you found one that was actually fast.
I mean, look, these are all this Pritom or Pretom, like they're either that or this like weird kids version.
Yep.
Wild.
Yeah, and this and so that's I mean, kind of a long way around.
This is the one you were talking about. 2024 new.
Yeah. And okay, so Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Let's see what that one is.
Is that a model number though?
Yeah. 8 Gen 2. So it's a Snapdragon 8 Generation 2. This one is a Qualcomm. Trying to see the speeds.
I'm trying to see when it came out. Because that's really,
this one,
I don't think the speeds are as relevant as when it releases. I mean, that right there tells you anything and everything you need to know is. I mean, because for example, if you know nothing about computers, you could go and say, "Oh, this is an i7 7400K," and you're like, "Wow."
See, that one came out 2 years ago.
fast.
That was December 2022.
So that's pretty new. But
so that's actually new. That one's actually pretty nice compared to those other ones. But look, there's an 8-year difference in some of those chips.
Yeah,
and they look identical on the surface for the listing.
This one's also $100. I mean, so you're seeing the price difference dramatically there.
And it's Android 14, so it's got a newer one.
Yeah,
it's dramatically a different tablet. But unless they smash it in your face with this crazy advertising, how would you know between the listings?
Well, but see, that's the thing though.
Knowing
but I'm going to argue that this is not even I like the example I just used for the i7. I mean, this is, and even the AMD series. And unless you go and look up what is you hear i7 and you know i3, i5, i7, it's the fastest. If you're buying a 7th gen i7, that processor came out in 2014. It's 10 years old, but you'd have no way to know that.
And it used to be that they would make the names of the generations of chips different enough to be like, oh yeah, that's a fast chip. Yeah. Well, then Intel came up with the bright idea, let's never change the models. Let's only change the end parts. Let's make i7, the top model of the year every year going forward. Well, then how do you ever know the difference?
Yeah.
Like you have to memorize every single ending or get a chart to know, is this a 10-year-old chip or is this a 20-year-old chip? You're running into the exact same problem with all these Snapdragon chips. You got a 10-year-old chip.
Yeah.
How do you know the Snapdragon 8 is that much faster than what was the other one, which was a different
8 Gen 2.
Snapdragon? Yeah, Snapdragon 888, versus the 8 2. How do I know that? I mean, there's a gigantic difference between the two chips.
Yes, absolutely.
But you would never know this. And so you go to all theyese listings and they're throwing all these tablets at you saying, buy this, buy this, buy this. How, you pretty much have to go and say, all right, here's the chip I want. Go find a tablet with that chip. I think that's the only way you can do it in this market. This is way off topic of where we started this.
Majorly off topic, but I think it goes to it doesn't necessarily go directly back to the antitrust conversation.
But there's a reason that those companies are big. They provide a product that people know is going to work well.
Yeah.
And now, especially in a market where you're inundated with junk.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't get them because it's not, I'll probably start getting them now because I just went to AliExpress and was looking at tablets. But apparently I was reading about this the other day. Apparently the Facebook, specifically the Facebook and Instagram ads for electronics is bad news bears.
Yeah.
Like it is straight up junk that and it's not, again, Facebook. It's not like it's a Facebook product, but their ad marketplace for products has been inundated, especially around Christmas, with just
products.
Garbage, just straight up AliExpress dog crap stuff. And you go and you look at, oh, well, my grandmother uses Facebook. So she scrolls through Facebook and goes, oh, I bet my grandson would like whatever the hell random product is popping
tablet,
up. And then buys it or whatever, or God forbid, gives her credit card number to whatever scam website they're selling it on. And that's that. I mean, apparently it's really bad with drones right now. These like super cheap $25 drones that are all over these marketplaces from shady which AliExpress is not a shady website. It's a reputable retailer. But these shady marketplaces selling these $25 drones that people are buying their relatives for Christmas, which you can guarantee aren't going to work. Or if they do, not well at all because it's a $25 drone. So it's just bad.
But this is what we've opened up for. I mean, when we outsource everything to China and bring everything in from China, there's not a lot of product regulations as far as quality of products. It used to be, made in America, it would have a certain quality level. Well, everything is made in China. It can have not every product, but it can have a certain quality level because they'll ship anything. I mean, as long as it holds together, they'll ship it. And so you have to be incredibly careful. I think that'll be the benefit if we do start manufacturing more of these things in America. Maybe that'll be the standard. You buy a product that's made in America, you know that it's going to be built well and it's going to be fast for the time. Well, right? If that becomes a standard, maybe that's how you start marketing American products and say, hey, at least it'll work well. Right? That's the advertisement.
I don't disagree with you, but this also comes down to people willing to spend more on products, which is hard.
But the thing is, you don't want to spend a lot because there's most likely going to be very low quality. We've gotten out of the mindset of expecting things to be built well.
That's fair.
Where it used to be you'd buy something and you expected it to work well. Now it's like you're surprised when something is built well.
Yeah, I was just the other day I was on AliExpress looking for one of those gaming tablets, like the ones that come with the 5,000 ROM things, and it was insane. What was
the number?
What was coming up and how cheap some of these devices were. I mean, you're talking about like $25, $32 for this Game Boy ripoff style device that comes with 20,000 ROMs. They're cool. They look cool as hell. I'm not going to buy one, but they look cool. My mother was like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe this would be useful." But then I started looking at them and then going to YouTube and looking at them, and they're crap. I mean, they just don't.
If you're going to get one, like that's the thing is you have to do research and figure out because there are really good ones out there. There's a couple models where they build them and they're high quality. They work really well. But it's so inundated with clones that you could, finding that one product, you have to be inundated in get yourself in there and find it. Yeah, like
this is $7, Brian. I went to the gas station this afternoon because I was craving a soda and spent $3 on it.
Yep.
Like, how does this even exist?
And how do they get it to you? Free shipping, $7.31.
Yeah.
It's a 5-inch arcade retro console for Game Boy emulator.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah, and there's tons of this stuff.
Yeah, it's all over here.
But because of this, it's hard to find something that's built well anymore. There's so much of this that finding good is now difficult, and that's the biggest frustration for me.
It's I've been doing some more stuff on AliExpress. There's when you're buying cheap stuff that you know on this is a tip of the week. Let's bring it back. Do I have that old intro? Do we have an old Yeah,
I'm sure you got it somewhere.
How quickly can I get an old tip of the week intro loaded into here? Because I actually do have I have a tip image. I don't have the music, but I have this. So tip of the week on Infection, the H1Z1 podcast. The tip of the week is if you're buying cheap crap off Amazon, like some cheap plastic thing, go to AliExpress and buy it because it'll be like $15 on Amazon and like $2 on AliExpress. So that's my tip of the week. If you know what you're buying, if you're like, oh, I need this crappy little plastic thing for whatever.
Something specific. Yeah.
Yes, buy it on AliExpress. So tip of the week.
Good. Yeah. Good idea.
So.
All right. Was there anything else? I mean, we're over on time. Is there anything else we wanted to discuss before we round out our 500th episode?
No, I thought this is a good this episode really encapsulates it all. Off topic completely, shopping on AliExpress, talking about a crappy video game from a decade ago. This really just
it's pretty
Chef
much our
Kiss,
podcast.
It completely wraps it up. All right, Brian, where can folks find you online?
All right. Well, if you want to find me, of course, you can find me at Boise Computer on X, or of course, you go to at Brian Aldrich on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and other places. If you want to check out my blog, biteoftech.com. Of course, if you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, that is the best place to find us. Join our server on Discord. In there, we have a show news channel, or maybe you want to jump on one of the 11 ARC servers that are running. You can get a whole Nickeri there, maybe just kind of hang out and chat with people. If you want to watch the live show, we have that through Twitch and YouTube, and then we upload after the fact to Rumble. We've been discussing whether or not to stream to Rumble. That seems like that's becoming more of a thing lately. We have all the audio forms at the lower right-hand side. Those are uploaded after the fact as well. So if the show is done, you're going to listen to it. That means the show notes for that episode are also uploaded. You can go there and find links for all the different topics that we discussed throughout that live show. So if there's a video, maybe there's some source material that you're wanting to see, you just jump in there and you can follow along while you listen or watch. If you do want to support us, there's a support menu option up top, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, sirree. Thank you very much, Brian. We will have a couple, maybe another show or two here before the end of the year. Taking a couple weeks off between Christmas. Well, Christmas on a Wednesday this year, so
yeah,
probably we'll probably have a couple shows off there between Christmas and New Year's. But yeah, definitely check out our Discord server. And if you're still playing Call of Duty, so if anybody wants to play that, shoot me a message on the old Discord. Brian, thanks as always, my friend. Greatly appreciated.
Of course. Yep. We'll see you later.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to do it. If you want to check me out on social media, you can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig, or visit my website, nickcraig.com. That's going to do it for our 500th episode. If you missed any portion of today's show, I encourage you to head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.